here and only here on NFC Now. Definitely encompass everything that happened, all the exciting action that happened inside and outside the cage at NFC 149 at Monday Night Brewery. Now joining us is the one, the only NFC's matchmaker, Jesse Wable. Jesse, that beard looks better every time, brother. How you feeling, man?
Good, man. How y'all doing?
No complaints, man. You sound clear in your room. Is that your gaming room, man? Is that where you're coming from?
This is my son's room. It's his Pittsburgh Steelers black and yellow room. Just trying to get away from everybody, get a little quiet in.
How did he get on Pittsburgh? Or is Pittsburgh your team?
That's where I was born. I'm from Pittsburgh. I moved down here in 2001, but, I still root for Pittsburgh.
Indeed, man. See, learn something new every day. Did not know you were from Pittsburgh, man. Tell us another interesting fact about Jesse Wable. What else don't we know?
Favorite food is sushi.
What kind? You like nigiri? You like sashimi? What's up? You like the rolls?
The sashimi and the rolls, pretty much everything. Big sushi fan.
But now you eat the same thing every single day, right?
Yeah, ever since I've been trying to lose a little bit of weight, I've been on a boring chicken and watermelon diet.
What do you weigh right now, if you don't mind us asking?
Right now, just stepping off the scale is 171. A little over, close to 2 years ago, I was like 225. I was getting big. I was a heavyweight Austin Green size a couple years ago, but I had to get rid of all that and get back down to.
A fight? Are you preparing for a fight? What's up?
I don't think so. I don't think my wife will let me. Maybe. I'm not rolling it out, but just looking to get in shape and be a little healthier.
Indeed, man. Now, I asked you about your favorite. You told us about your favorite food. Did you have a favorite fight from this past weekend's card?
Man, it's hard to pick. I knew going into that event, I was telling David and Charlene, the last 8 fights on the card were all going to be pretty crazy. If I had to pick one that really sticks out, it was Seth Haas versus Cameron Burton. The fight that went to, I think it was a unanimous draw. Man, that was such a back and forth, crazy fight. That first round was really close, but I had to give it to Seth. I went back and watched it. Seth did hit him with a big shot in that first round that kind of staggered him, and then the rest of the round was close, so you have to give it to Seth. Cameron definitely took over rounds 2, rounds 3, and round 4. And then in that 5th round was, taking over as well, but then maybe 10, 15 seconds left. Seth landed a knockdown, and, in Muay Thai, knockdowns are scored 10-8 rounds. So that's why that fight was scored a draw. But, man, what a fight from Seth Haas and Cameron Burton. And,
it was an amazing fight. Now, I think in real time, some people were upset about the decision. You said after you watched the fight, you could definitely see the way that fight was scored.
Basically, yeah. I mean, if you give it the first round to Seth, that's 10-9. The next 3 is, 10-9 Cameron. But then if you scored a knockdown in that 3rd round, it's a 10-8 round. So that evens it up at the 47-47. So I understand. I did talk to Cameron's coach, Kelly Leo, after the fight. He said that it was a slip. Looking back, it's tough to say, man. It's tough to say. It did kind of look like a knockdown to me. I can understand where they're saying it's a slip. But, the refs got a rule on the side of caution. They can't just let the fighter up if they're rocked and let them continue and potentially get knocked out. So, I definitely agree with the knockdown.
Yeah, and Jimmy Neely came over to me afterwards, and he didn't apologize, but he kind of told his side of it, that it was a knockdown, and that's why he ruled it as such. And I told Jimmy, you'd never see myself or you arguing a referee or judge a decision. I think in 20 years, no one's probably ever picked up on us arguing a referee's judge's decision just because it doesn't affect us. But I told him I thought he made the right call. I personally thought it was a knockdown sitting there watching it live, so I had no argument with it at all. I thought Jimmy made the correct call.
So would you say that was the fight of the night?
I would say so. Yeah, it was one of the good ones. TJ Holt and Justin McCollum was also right up there with, one of the best fights of the night. But if I had to pick one, yeah, I'd give it to Cameron and Seth.
Did we have a submission of the night?
Got to give it to Trace Harper.
I was just saying.
You know what? Let me take that back. I was Googling this today, UFC heavyweight triangle finishes, and I couldn't find one. I don't think I've ever seen a triangle choke from a heavyweight, especially in the 3rd, and final round. Most heavyweights are gassed. David hates, 5-round title fights because, the heavyweights always get gassed and it's boring. And, I think we proved that it was a good one. And the 3rd, granted it was the 3rd, not 5th round, but still a good ways into the fight, Austin pulled off a triangle off of his back. And like I said, how often do you see triangle chokes from heavyweights? So yeah, submission of the night, Austin Green.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that, but shout out to my man Trace, honorable mention in that one.
Yes,
and
sir.
then our knockout of the night. I'm assuming there's only one on that one.
Detroit, man, it's that kid. I love watching Travell fight. The energy he brings, just the crowd he brings. Every time he steps in there, you have to pay attention. You can't blink. The first round was really close, and I think it was 12 seconds, 13 seconds or something like that into the second round. Farouk came out with, an awkward kind of karate type style, but Travell is used to seeing that. He trains with karate guys every day. He trains with Richard Chamel and Shootakan Atlanta. And he picked right up on the movements that Farouk was throwing. He was kind of lifting his leg and sitting it back down real heavy with his hands down. And as soon as he picked that leg up and brought it down, Travell came in with a massive 1-2, just, straight punches right down the middle. That's what wins fights. And, knocked him out bad.
Did you rewatch that fight? Because when I rewatched the knockdown, did you think it was an early stoppage, or was that the right call?
Oh, no, he was out. I'd recommend rewatching it again. Yeah, man, he was out. Yeah, that was definitely.
I think his eyes definitely rolled back. It was just it happened so quick. It was just like, oh man, like, was the fight over, or was the fight over?
Yeah, he comes forward, but if you look at Travell, he's always moving forward. He does not step back. He keeps his hands up and he moves forward and he throws big punches. It's the same thing he did versus Alex Caruso, versus a lot of people that he's fought. He's got a lot of stoppage wins. And I wonder how many he's got before he goes pro. But I do know who I want to see him fight next.
Now that's a great transition, because after his fight, he had a very spirited call out. Man, what did you think about that? And could we expect to see that fight coming up?
Like, going into the card, that wasn't even a fight I was thinking about. Like, they were on the same card. I kind of thought that, I don't want to say it's beef. It's competitive beef. But I kind of thought it was squash. You know what I mean? TJ won the fight. They fought amateur MMA rules. So, the rule set was a little different. They couldn't punch in the face on the ground. They had to wear shin guards. But now they're both advanced amateur in Muay Thai. They're both advanced amateur in MMA. I think it's about time we make a top dog NFC title and have Travell Miller and TJ Holt fight again in advanced amateur Muay Thai or MMA, whichever they choose.
What do you think that fight should be at? Because I know they fought MMA last time. What do you think that fight? What do you think the rules of the fight should be, or is it up to the person who won the fight last?
It's up to them. I mean, obviously, TJ Holt is the champion now at 145 pounds in Muay Thai. But I'm fine seeing them fight with kickboxing gloves on, but who wouldn't want to see those guys put on some, smaller MMA gloves and throw down as well?
Now, transition into our 13th fight of the evening, our pro Muay Thai fight, man. It seemed like Osei Abunal was having a real difficulty finding an opponent, man. Could you just take us behind the curtain about how that fight come along with Larry Green, who stepped in, 24 hours notice?
So he was supposed to fight Adrian Miles. Adrian Miles kind of went AWOL on us, backed out. Harrison Aiken ended up stepping up on a week's notice. And then a day before the weigh-ins, messaged me and Dave saying that he, possibly hurt his knee. As far as we all knew, the fight was off. And as much as I would love to take credit for, the Larry Green versus OC fight, I can't. I'm going to have to kind of turn it over to David. This happened at weigh-ins, and I actually found out about this fight at my day job on break. I go on lunch break, and I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I see that Larry Green is fighting OC Abunal on 24 hours notice, and I'm like, what? I had no idea. It was even happening. So, Dave, kind of tell him how all that happened on Thursday at weigh-ins.
Yeah, so we were at weigh-ins, and I guess I was staring at the both of them sitting there in a circle. I think in a circle was Osei, Larry Green, Cam Graham, and Austin. And they were all just kind of sitting there hanging out. And Osei obviously didn't have an opponent. I told him to come to weigh-ins because we did have 4 other heavyweights. Two other heavyweights. So if either one didn't make weight, and we were concerned about Austin Green because his fight was at 267. He was 293 the week earlier. So in case he didn't make weight, Osei would be there as a backup in case. So Osei came to weigh-ins. He was cool about it. But then I saw Larry Green in the circle. I'm looking at Larry Green, and Larry just came to my house the day before Wednesday to buy a jiu-jitsu match from me. So we were chit-chatting there. And I just saw Larry Green. And I was like, hey, why don't you two fight each other? And they kind of looked at each other and just giggled for a second. And they looked back at me, and I was like, I'm not kidding. Like, why don't you guys actually fight each other? And both of them like, okay, yeah, why not? Well, I mean, we're the same weight. Larry said he had been training a little bit, so he was in shape enough to go a couple rounds. And then I talked to Larry a little bit about purse money. We agreed on that. And then he did not have a blood or eye exam. So I had to call our place, Low T Nation, get him hooked up with a blood test right away. And the funny thing is, weigh-ins were at 1 and they were done at 3. And at 3 o'clock, Larry is still there chit-chatting with people, like hanging out, chit-chatting. And I was like, Larry, get the hell out of here. Like, go to the blood test place. And he's like, okay, I'll leave in a minute. 3:15, 3:30. I'm like, Larry, what are you still doing here? You got to get out of here. So he finally goes and gets the blood test. And Friday morning, I got that back. Quickest turnaround ever. Luckily, I'm good friends with the owner. He does my TRT. And we got his blood test back, I think, by like 11 a.m. Friday, quickest I've ever turned around. And he also got his eye exam Friday morning as well. So for everything, Larry got set in the fight, and, you know, it was Larry versus Osei. So we actually announced that Thursday at weigh-ins. People were chatting it up Thursday night. It didn't really even come together till Friday morning. So I thought they both might get disappointed that blood test didn't come back, but it did. So the fight was on.
Got to give a major shout out to my man Larry Green, and I was definitely moved by his post-fight interview, man, in the cage, and how he just told everybody, man, just step the fuck up. Excuse my language, but he was like, hey, if you're gonna be a mixed martial artist, man, like, yo, like, step the fuck up. Like, I did this on 24 hours notice, and I felt like it was necessary for him to have a moment to, you know, address the crowd after just being a warrior and getting in there off such short notice against a killer in Osei. Osei is he's a killer. And he hopped in there, man, and he did that, you know, and I'm sure he helped save Osei, you know, and all his fans that came out there to watch him compete. He saved the card, and I'm confident that you took care of him too, David.
Yeah, I mean, Osei sold over $6,000 in tickets. I mean, it's more than Osei has ever sold. I think his girl Samantha helped sell a lot of those. A lot of people from his company wanted to come. And the interesting thing was, when I talked to them earlier in the week when the fight versus Harrison was off, I asked them, are all your fans going to want to get refunds on their tickets? Or are they still going to want to come? Because we'll have to deal with that. And Samantha told me, no, whether Osei fights or not, they're still coming to the show. So again, I go back to this a lot. I think a different promoter, or a scumbag promoter, would have just said, hey, all those people are still coming. We still sold over $6,000 in tickets to Osei's crowd. Why spend the money and get someone else? But I thought it was the right thing to do. We went through Austin, and then Harrison picked it up on a week's notice, and then Larry Green picked up on 24 hours notice. It was pretty cool to see two Atlanta guys both step up. And, you know, Harrison's injury was legit. He also went to Dr. Traub Thursday morning. Dr. Traub checked him out and agreed he could not fight. So, yeah, it was cool to see Atlanta guys helping out Atlanta guys. And whether that helps out the NFC or not, I don't know. But it helps out the other guys, and it helps out the fans. And it's something we won't forget. So, I mean, when it comes, Larry Green tells us he wants to fight again, you know, we'll do everything we can to make his fight happen next time.
Shout out to Larry Green, man. He's in the comments right now, man. Shout out to you, Larry. We appreciate you for stepping up. Shout out to Ja Fighter. He asked a question. He said, how does an upcoming fighter get into the amateur series? Jesse.
Hit me up on Facebook, Jesse Arnold Wable at yahoo.com. Our NFC Fight Night page on Instagram or Facebook. Just contact us on there. Or you can fill out the form on nfcfighting.com.
So, Jess, you did say a minute ago when we were talking about the fight of the night. I also thought the fight of the night was the main event, Austin versus Cam. And you were talking about how I hate 5-round fights for title fights. And I think sometimes they are good. But at times I think Austin versus Cam, as good as that fight was with the 3rd-round sub and them still having energy, I think if that was scheduled as a 5-round fight, I think they both would have taken those 3 rounds a little bit easier, knowing there was 4 and 5 rounds coming up. So I personally think that was the right decision on the heavyweight guys to not do them as 5 rounds, because we saw an amazing fight after, you know, for the 3 rounds.
Agreed. I can understand that.
Now, one thing that I did want to bring up, man, last show we had you on, Jesse, and we had on Trace Harper as well as Ryan Kimbrough, and all of a sudden it was decided that that was a title eliminator fight. Can we expect Trace Harper to be fighting TJ Spires?
Yeah, so Trace Harper is the #1 contender. So I was kind of talking to Dave a little bit about this earlier. TJ Spires really wanted on this November 4th card. Sometimes with the matchmaking, it's all about timing with people. You know what I mean? It just really is sometimes. I kind of got the impression last week that, whether Ryan Kimbrough won or lost, that he probably didn't want to fight so soon in November. I don't know what you guys think or what vibe y'all got, but that's just kind of the vibe I got. Quincy Evans, he trains with Jason Faglier, Malcolm Wellmaker. He's 3-1. He's an exciting fighter. He was also throwing his name in the hat for a title fight. Kind of like I said, kind of after the interview last week, I wasn't really sure about it. Jason had messaged me saying Quincy had another title fight opportunity for another promotion. So now I'm kind of faced with, well, do I want to kind of wait and see how this fight goes? What if one of them gets injured? What if, Ryan wins but doesn't want to fight? What if Trace wins and he's injured? Do I want to take a chance and have Trace and Ryan not available, and then Quincy now fighting for another promotion and TJ without a fight? So the decision was made, late last week to go ahead and make Quincy Evans versus TJ Spires happen November 4th. They're going to fight for the 155-pound title. Trace is still the number one contender. I have no problem with him, waiting it out and fighting the winner. But if not, I do have another opponent for Trace for November 4th. It was already offered to his coach. I was actually approached by Hayden Bolding's coach. He's 2-3 from American Top Team Atlanta. And they requested to fight Trace, which kind of surprised me. So, if Trace wants to stay busy and wants to fight on that same card, he can. Or if he wants to just keep training and get better and prepare for the title fight, that's fine too. I'd love to have Trace out November 4th if that's what he chooses. Maybe commentate the title fight, get a cage side view, get a good look, and then get in the cage afterwards and pose off against the winner and fight for the title next. So, yeah, Trace is still definitely the number one contender. He looks super impressive. I don't think anybody saw that happening. Maybe he did. I'm sure he did. But I don't think a lot of us did, to be honest. And he dominated that fight. Threw some spinning wheel kicks. I think looked a little bit better on the feet than Ryan did, which surprised me. And you could tell as soon as he got a hold of Ryan, there was nothing Ryan was going to do. That was Trace's fight. It was Trace's night. And he looked great.
Shout out to Trace. I think he may have felt a little disrespected about the buildup of this November 4th card that didn't have anything to do with him. So we'll see what he has to say. He'll be on the program a little bit later. Jesse, we do have the fight of the decade coming up on October 15th. Could you tell us about that card a little bit before we part ways?
Yeah, so that's going to be an early card. We're starting at 5 p.m. We're looking to get out of there about 9 p.m. There's going to be about 10, 11 fights on the card with a couple jiu-jitsu matches on it. Right now, we've got a couple pro fights. The main event, of course, Doug Usher and Jared Gooden. Co-main event hasn't been announced yet, but Luis Brewington will be the co-main event. He's fighting Maurice Morris from North Carolina. We've got Chloe Greeley on the card fighting Kelly Jersild. A lot of good fights on the card. Like I said, we're not going to have 14, 15 fights on this card. It's going to be a kind of a little bit of a shorter night because it is an earlier start time and we do have to be out of the venue by a certain time. But man, I cannot wait. That is going to be such a good, fun event to watch. Jared Gooden and Doug Usher. It just doesn't get better than that. Definitely fight of the decade.
For sure, man. Hey, Jesse, man, thank you for your time. We know you got the kids to attend to, man. Tell Tiffany we said hello, man. Show her our love. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Jesse Wable, NFC's Matchmaker. Thank you for your time, man.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. Have a good one.
Peace.
Later.